Welcome to the Planeswalker Project, and today we're going to be looking at the top 5 Innistrad block commanders. Just as a quick forward, we're not going to be involving Griselbrand on this list because he is unfortunately banned in Commander. He's a little overpowered, but still, just figured I'd give a little honorable mention to him before we get started. Coming in at number 5 is Sigarda, Host of Herons. It's a 5/5 flying hexproof for 2 generic, 1 green and 2 white. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Now this technically was from Avacyn Restored. It was a mythic rare, and quite honestly, it's one of the better green-white commanders. It really doesn't lend itself to any one specific strategy, but if you want to have a large swarm of creatures, this is definitely a good option for perhaps, say, a token deck. I'd also like to mention that her newer counterpart, Sigarda Heron's Grace, a 4/5 flying for 3 generic, 1 white and 1 green. You and your humans that you control have hexproof, and you can tap 2 of any color, exile a card from your graveyard, and put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield. This one lends itself more to a human tribal deck, and she's sort of more of an angel commander for that, but all the same, I still prefer Sigarda, Host of Herons, to Heron's Grace, only because I like more of a flexibility in what I can do with a commander deck. I'm not really big on a deliberate human strategy over anything else. Our number 4 slot goes to Geist of St. Traft, which is perhaps one of the most famous of the Innistrad legends. A 2/2 with hexproof for 1 generic, 1 white and 1 blue. Whenever he attacks, you put a 4/4 flying angel creature token into play. Tapped and attacking, it gets exiled at the end of combat. Now, Geist of St. Traft is perhaps one of the most aggressive blue-white legendaries out there. It's a very powerful ability. He's perhaps one of the strongest tiny leader cards. He's very good in a Voltron build, and even when he was in Standard, he was still very powerful, and to this day he's perhaps one of my personal favorite commanders from Innistrad. In the new set, Shadows over Innistrad, he's not really there, but we do have the Invocation of St. Traft, which basically gives whatever creature that is enchanted his ability to put the 4/4 flying angel creature token into play, which really isn't as good, but it's nice to be able to have sort of a aggressive style that sort of mirrors what he does, but not quite on him. It's a little weird. Number 3 is Grimgrin Corpseborn. I actually did a commander deck tech of Grimgrin recently on my other channel, which you can check out right here. Grimgrin lends himself very much to a sort of tribal zombie commander style where you're sacrificing a lot of creatures, pumping him up, and plowing through for a lot of damage. He's a 5/5 for 3 generic and then 1 blue and 1 black, so Dimir colors make him very easy to go into a zombie tribal. Coming in at number 2, we have Olivia Voldaren, the Vampire Commander. Old Olivia is more of a tribal sort of commander. She lends herself very much to a tribal strategy, bringing in your best vampires, making your opponent's cards into vampires, and then taking control of their vampires. And she can pump herself up, but realistically, your other vampires are going to be doing a lot more of the dirty work. Now, in the new set, there is Olivia mobilized for war. She's a little bit more aggressive than her older counterpart, a little less with control tactics, a little more of getting the vampires out and beating face with them. I'm not a really big fan of this newer version of her. I'm sure there's a pretty decent build out there for her as a commander. She's also usable in tiny leaders now, seeing as her cost is under 3, and quite frankly, it's a powerful card, but I still feel the old Olivia was better suited for a regular 100 card commander deck. Quick honorable mention before our number 1 spot is Bruna, Light of Alabaster. She's a 5/5 flying vigilant angel for 3 generic, 2 white and a blue. Whenever she attacks, you can attach to her any number of auras on the battlefield, and you can put onto the battlefield attached to it any number of auras that could enchant it from either your graveyard or your hand. She's a really powerful card when you have a lot of enchantments in play, and for an aura-based deck, she's really good for that sort of Voltron. Unfortunately, the card that we have for number 1 is a little bit more powerful, although it actually could go into a Bruna commander deck. And finally, we have Avacyn, Angel of Hope, taking our number 1 spot. She costs 5 generic and 3 white for an 8/8 flying vigilant angel with Avacyn, Angel of Hope, and other permanents you control are indestructible. While that's a very simple ability, it's actually very potent in Commander. Having your cards all have indestructible is a very strong strategy, and quite frankly will very often win you the game. You don't have to worry about your cards dying to being blocked, you don't have to worry about removal. Aside from a mass exile, you really don't have to worry too much about Avacyn going away. Especially being an 8/8, she usually will end the game with a few swings. Being that she's an angel, she obviously does cost a lot to get into play. The majority of angels do, but with all the mana rocks and ramp that you can put into a deck, Avacyn would be pretty easy to get out in a normal commander game. She fits in pretty nicely to a few other strategies that can include white, so she's definitely found a home in a lot of token strategies and a lot of tribal strategies. I know, for example, Kaalia of the Vast has a great home for her. Being able to swing in with Kaalia, drop an Avacyn, and everything suddenly becomes indestructible makes it very potent and very difficult to handle. Now, as for Avacyn's newer forms, there are 2. We have Avacyn Guardian Angel, and then we have Archangel Avacyn. Archangel Avacyn is making a big impact right now in Standard because of the ability to flash in to give all your creatures indestructible until the end of turn, and when she flips, she hits for 3 damage all around, so it's basically Anger of the Gods on a stick, a 6/5 stick to be exact. But this card I feel is more suited for Standard play. Doing 3 damage to each other creature is pretty good in Commander, but other than white weenie token decks, you're really not going to see a whole lot of creature removal just off of a 3 damage. What do you think of our list? Are there legends that we didn't include on this list that you feel we should have? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like down below. It'll let me know what you think, and remember to subscribe and join the Planeswalker Project.